I have a number of questions, looking for some quick answers just to help us to be able to figure out a better way to move forward in terms of the fragmentation that's currently out there that we've heard about today in terms of responding to bio threats, and also trying to figure out better, what's working and what's not working in the current system. But let me start with regard to a question about academia, and maybe Dr. Parker, you're the best person to answer this because that's where you reside now. Does DHS and do other entities, including CDC, that have biosecurity programs effectively leverage U.S. research universities? Is there a good relationship with academia?
Well, I think early in the, and I'll make this short, early in the life of DHS, there was creation of the University Centers of Excellence, and that's been, I think, a very good and effective program to engage academia. Now, the threats have evolved and the priorities have evolved over time, and what I've observed is biosecurity has been kind of downregulated in importance for those University Centers of Excellence. At early days, there was there was 2-3 centers that were focused on agricultural biosecurity and food security. Those have been emeritus status today.
So it sounds like that could be revamped as it was perhaps after the anthrax attacks and other incidents.
Correct.
Because I think that's one thing that's missing in the current system, is having a more formalized way to access some of our great advantages as a country, which is our research universities. We talked earlier about how some countries are ahead of us now in terms of surveillance, but we certainly have a huge advantage in terms of using U.S. research capability. So that's one thing we want to work on with you. Dr. Kerr, you may be the best person to answer this. There's another group we haven't talked about today, at least in any detail, and that's the National Biosurveillance Integration Center, NBIC. Is it needed? Is it helpful? Does it add something beyond what CDC already does? NBIC is part of CWMD, so it's part of DHS, and then you also have CDC with, it seems to me, a similar responsibility. Talk to us about NBIC.
Yes, sir. Well, we've reported on it several times over the last decade, and what we've found pretty consistently is they've struggled to meet their mandate of providing broad biosurveillance. Part of that is that they don't really have the access to the data they need, both the data at other federal agencies or down at the local level, to produce the kind of real-time information you would need to make decisions. The other thing we heard from its partners, particularly at the federal level and state level, is that, since they use a lot of publicly available information and they do a pretty good job of synthesizing that information, it's not really new or that novel to the people that need to make decisions in this arena. So, it's not that what they produce has no value, but another concern I have is that, I mentioned this before, there are 4 different surveillance efforts across the 4 big departments, Homeland Security, Defense, USDA, and HHS, all separate, all stovepipe, don't work together. Some have been successful for their individual purposes, some have not. And I think that just shows you the lack of coordination across this whole enterprise. It's very difficult to make the decision of which one should go and which should stay, because there's no one at a top level that can say that they can make that decision.
Yeah. Well, I think this has been brought up by all 3 of you in one way or another, that there is too much fragmentation, not enough accountability, and to have 4 different departments or agencies effectively trying to achieve the same mission and perhaps not sharing information from what you said between themselves, that's an opportunity for us in terms of reorganization. The problem that I see, and I don't want to get into anything that's classified here, but is that we have surveillance capability in certain areas, certain urban centers, and this information is publicly available. I'm not going to name the number of cities, even though it's publicly available, because I just like to stay away from that sort of stuff. But it's not comprehensive, and everybody knows that. Second, when you look at the biological threats we face today, it's not comprehensive, and that goes to the technology issue. And that's one reason I asked earlier about what other countries are doing, and whether we can learn and whether academia is fully engaged, because it seems to me we have an opportunity here to have better technology. Could you address that in the appropriate way, Dr. George? We don't want to give our adversaries information that they shouldn't have, but we also got to figure out how to fix the system so it's more effective.
Well, Senator, I think you're absolutely right. What we want is a comprehensive system, and that system, or a comprehensive coverage of the entire country. What that would require is drawing information and data from a variety of different sources. So it's okay that we don't have BioWatch in every single jurisdiction throughout the country, but we have it in the number that we do have it, and that information should be coming into a place and combined with the information we're getting from MBIC, the information we're getting from the CDC, and so forth. That was the original vision for the National Biosurveillance Integration Center. As Chris said earlier, the department doesn't have the access it needs to that information, but I think the other side of that coin, as far as this body is concerned, is that Congress did not mandate that all of the other departments and agencies provide that information in the first place. So, it's just going along the way it is. I think that, yes, sir.
For a second, so there's obviously two great opportunities here. One would be to require that all the information is consolidated in one place. MBIC probably is the place to do it. And second is, and I think this was discussed earlier, Dr. Parker, in terms of the academic contribution here, is that we have the capability to collect and assess data that we have never had before. Didn't have, frankly, after anthrax and other biological threats that led us to try to come up with a national system. So we have the capability to do this in ways we've never had before, and massive amounts of data being analyzed quickly and being able to produce something that's meaningful that can then be disseminated to the appropriate agencies and departments. Is that accurate?
Senator, I think we have the capability as a nation. We do not have that data analysis capability at the Department of Homeland Security, and certainly not in the National Biosurveillance Integration Center. So you would have to decide to make that kind of investment in that part of DHS or somewhere else in the government if you choose. But we can get there. It's just going to require some more money and upgrading that capability.
Mm-hmm. Great. My time has expired. I'm going to turn it to the new chair of this committee, Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you very